What's up everyone, how's it going? Welcome to another Palworld video. Today I'll be showing you what the best world settings are in Palworld to maximize your time in-game without feeling too OP. You don't want to blitz through the game and miss out on the enjoyment it has to offer. With these settings, you'll spend way less time farming for materials and spend much more time exploring the world and catching pals. You can set this up if you're starting a new world, or you can change your current world settings if you don't want to lose any progress you've already made. With that being said, let's get to the settings. So the first two settings that you see are daytime speed and nighttime speed. Setting this to a lower number will increase the duration of the daytime and the nighttime. Setting this to a higher number will lower that duration. I like to leave this setting at 1 just so time can progress normally in game. The third setting is EXP rate, self-explanatory. The lower the number, the less XP you get. The higher the number, the more XP you get. I also like to leave the setting at 1 just to progress normally. PAL capture rate, again self-explanatory. Setting it to a lower number will make it more difficult to catch pals. Setting it to a higher number will make it easier. I do leave this setting at 1 just so I can catch pals as the game intended me to. The first setting that I do change is PAL appearance rate. Setting this to a lower number will reduce the number of pals that appear in game. Setting it to a higher number will increase the amount of pals that show. I have messed around with this setting a lot and I found that the sweet spot is 2. Setting it to 2.1 will actually increase the amount of bosses that spawn, so it'll go from 1 to 2. Setting it to 3, you'll see 3 bosses spawning instead of just the 1. Setting it at 2, it'll still be 1 boss, but you'll see a lot more pals appearing in the world. The next setting is damage from pals multiplier. Lowering this number will cause wild pals and your captured pals to deal less damage. Setting it to a higher number will increase the damage that they do. I do like to leave the setting at 1 as well as the next setting that you see, which is damage to pals multiplier. Lowering the number decreases the amount of damage that wild pals and your captured pals take. Increasing the number will increase the amount of damage they take. The next setting that I do change is pal hunger depletion rate. Setting it to a lower value will increase the amount of time it takes for the pal to get hungry. Raising the number will lower the amount of time it takes for the pal to get hungry. I set this as 0.1, as well as pal stamina reduction rate, which affects the amount of time that it'll take for the pal to run out of stamina. Setting it to 0.1 will increase the amount of time it takes for the pal to run out of stamina. Increasing the number will lower the amount of time it takes for the pal to run out of stamina. The next two settings are PAL auto health regeneration rate and PAL sleep health regeneration rate. This affects the amount of time it'll take for the pal to start regenerating health. The lower the number, the more time it'll take, and the higher the number, the less time it'll take. I do like to put these two settings at 5. The next setting is damage from player multiplier. This will decrease the amount of damage that you do to pals if you lower the number. Raising the number will increase the amount of damage that you do to pals. I like to leave this at 1, as well as damage to player multiplier, which decreases the amount of damage you take with a lower number and increases the amount of damage you take with a higher number. Player hunger depletion rate and player stamina reduction rate, we're going to match it with the pal hunger depletion rate and the pal stamina depletion rate as they do the same thing, and we're going to set both of these to 0.1. Player auto health regeneration rate and player sleep health regeneration rate, we're going to do the same exact thing and match it with the PAL version, so we're going to set these both to 5. The next setting is damage to structure multiplier. Lowering this number decreases the amount of damage that your structures take. Increasing the number increases the amount of damage. It's best to set this to 0.5, which is the lowest that it can go. That way you don't have to worry about rebuilding any structures that have been destroyed by any raids. Structure deterioration rate. This affects the amount of time that it takes for your structures to deteriorate. Then you'll have to rebuild. It's best to set this to 0. That way you won't ever have to worry about rebuilding anything. Maximum number of dropped items in the world. Very self-explanatory. It's best to set this to the highest value, which is 5,000. Gatherable items multiplier. This affects the amount of resources that you get whenever you're mining or lumbering. Setting this to 3 is the best option as it will allow you to get the maximum amount of items. Gatherable objects health multiplier. This pretty much affects how long it'll take for you to chop down that tree or any ore deposits. Maxing this out to 3 will allow you to get more hits in, which equals more resources for you. Gatherable objects respawn interval. Setting this to a lower number will lower the amount of time it'll take for those resources to respawn. Increasing the number will increase the amount it takes. So setting this to 0.5 is the best option. The next setting is dropped items multiplier. This pretty much affects the items that you get whenever you defeat a POW or an NPC. Lowering this number will decrease the amount of items that are dropped, while raising this number increases the amount of items that are dropped. So we are going to set this to 3. The next setting on the list is time to incubate massive egg. Lowering this number will decrease the amount of time it takes for the egg to hatch, while increasing the number increases the amount of time it takes. Now you can set this setting to 0 to automatically hatch the eggs that you put in any incubator. Me personally, I like to set the setting to 1 just to have a little bit of time there, create a little bit of suspense. But when all I want to do is breed my POWs in order to create the best POW, I do set this setting to 0 just so I don't spend too much time waiting for the egg to incubate. The next setting is enable raid events. You can turn this off so you have no raids. You can leave it on to have raids. This is more of a personal preference to you, so turning it off or leaving it on depends on what you want to do. But by leaving it on, you do have the chance to see a few POWs that you haven't seen in game just yet, and you do get the chance to catch these POWs. Now on to death penalty. You do have 4 options with this setting. Option 1 is no drops, so that way you don't drop any items in your inventory or any gear that you have equipped when you die. Option 2 is drop all items except equipment. Option 3 is drop all items. And option 4 is drop all items and all POWs on team. The best option would obviously be no drops. That way you don't have to worry about traveling all the way back to where you died to pick up your items. And it's also a great way to take advantage of the respawn option that you do have in the game. Let's say you're pretty far away from base or any teleporter and you're out farming for resources or catching POWs. You don't want to spend any time running to a teleporter. Just use the respawn option, respawn at your base, and you're good to go. The next setting is going to be max number of guilds. By default is 20. I see no point in messing with this, especially if you're playing by yourself or with a few friends. In the case that you're hosting a community server, there can only be a maximum of 32 players per server, and chances are that these players are playing with at least 1 or 2 of their friends. So hypothetically, let's say that for every 1 player, there's 1 friend that's playing with them. You'll take 32, divide that by 2, they each make a guild, that's 16 guilds. So again, I see no point in messing with this setting. The next setting that we have is max POWs working at base. Self-explanatory. Lowering the number reduces the amount of POWs working at the base, increases the number, increases the amount of POWs. It's best to set this to 20, so you have the maximum amount of POWs working at base. That way you have more POWs at base helping you out with any handicraft, mining, breeding, lumbering, etc, etc. Alright, and with that, these are the best settings in Palworld for you to enjoy the game and not feel too OP while playing it. Keep in mind that this is my opinion and how I enjoy playing the game. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.